Israeli Defense Forces continued hitting Hamas targets in Gaza today after that deadly weekend terror attack. Hundreds of men, women, and children were murdered in their homes and on the streets. Americans are among those killed or taken captive.
These families are enduring an excruciating weight here. What can you tell them about what's happening right now to try to get these hostages out alive?
I met with the families of a number of Americans who've been either murdered here by Hamas or are likely in the hands of Hamas. And to the families who may have loved ones in the hands of Hamas, what I told them is this. We are doing everything we can, looking at every possible option to bring their loved ones back to them.
Does that include U.S. military, special forces?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of what we're looking at, what we're considering. Unfortunately, we have a lot of experience with this over the years. And President Biden has always been determined in these situations.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken sitting down with ABC News in Israel.
We're also working with countries throughout the region who may have relationships, who may have influence, who may have leverage with Hamas to use that leverage in favor of getting the hostages home.
The war forcing residents in Gaza to find safe spaces and shelter.
Yesterday was very hard. There were a lot of bombings around us. One of them was about 150 meters from my house.
After a missile hit this refugee camp, men were scratching through the rubble with their bare hands. 300,000 Gazans are now forced from their homes, this little girl crying in a stranger's arms. Israel has cut off food, water, and electricity to Gaza as part of retaliation for the deadly weekend attack.
One of the obligations that we have, that all democracies have, is to do everything we can to make sure, to the best of our ability, that civilians don't suffer. Israel is not targeting civilians. Hamas is very deliberately targeting civilians.
And tonight across the nation, law enforcement is on high alert here in the U.S. It comes after calls for a global day of action. The NYPD says police are now working 12-hour shifts, and officials in New York State are telling synagogues to consider closing early tomorrow. Meanwhile, Sacramento County deputies say there are no credible threats in this area. The office says they will stay in contact with other regional and national agencies.